Hello my dear friends, and welcome to my channel. Don't forget to make yourself a cup of tea and snacks if you want, because today we have very interesting stories, and one of them is a story about a man who didn't believe OP has injury and did an assault. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So this story was told to me by my brother when I was home visiting. It happened in 2015, at the peak of the gluten-free craze. To clarify, B brother, K kid, EP entitled parent, me yours truly. At that point in time, my brother was pretty heavily involved in scouting and was serving as senior patrol leader of his troop. Essentially, he was the kid in charge of all the planning and organization. I had been a scout in the same troop, and during that time, the adult leaders were a group of older Navy veterans. Between the time I had finished with scouting and my brother started getting involved, the older adult leaders had been pushed out and replaced with a group of upper middle class parents. Now, once people reach a certain level of comfort in their lives, there can be a tendency to see shadows on the wall and make them out to be phantom problems. This was certainly the case with these parents. The camping venues became severely limited, none of them wanted to camp outside of walking distance of warm showers. The troop was essentially relegated to backyard camping unless one of the parents decided to shake it up and live on the wild side for a weekend. This, among other problems, had taken a lot of the fun out of scouting. Now, while I was in the living room of my parents' house, I heard my brother close the door hard and walk pretty quickly into his room. He's a quiet guy, and it was pretty easy to see that something had upset him. "Hey B, what's going on?" Had a camp out planning meeting with one of the parents. "Didn't go well. Do you want to talk about it?" My brother began explaining what had happened. The troop had taken on a bunch of new younger boys that year. Their parents had insisted on becoming more involved in troop leadership. One parent was especially problematic. They had a son who apparently fell on the autism spectrum. The kicker? He had never had a formal autism diagnosis. His parents self-diagnosed him based on his behavior. EP had her son on a gluten-free casein-free diet. She believed that so long as her son was on the diet, his autism wouldn't manifest. Spoiler alert. The diet is junk science. There really isn't any study to support the gluten-free casein-free diet. Now, my brother and I aren't monsters. Though there was no formal diagnosis, we aren't the kind of people to argue, and what you want to eat is your business. Problem was, EP was being really pushy about her kid's diet. B, as you know, K is on a special diet for his autism, and I just wanted to run through the camp-out menu with you. No problem, EP. We've worked with scouts that have dietary restrictions, including vegetarian and kosher. Normally, we ask that they pack their own supply of food separate from the main menu because the other scouts might not be familiar with their dietary needs. I can help K carry and prepare the food you pack. We usually also cook one meal together for everyone following the restrictions so that the other boys can understand different dietary needs better. I'd be happy to work on that menu item with you. Okay, that's not acceptable. I don't want K to feel left out. You need to provide a gluten-free casein-free menu for everyone. That means no wheat products, no dairy products, and I don't want any of the other boys bringing snacks that'll make K feel left out, either. So when you're doing the shopping, keep that in mind. Anyone who's been on a camping trip can see the difficulty here. No sandwiches, no pasta, no tortillas, no cereal bars, no oatmeal, no milk and coffee, it goes on and on. It's doable with substitutes, of course, but to people who aren't used to them, they can be really off-putting, and that's one of the last things you need on a campout, as eating enough calories is really important. Throw that into the mix with a bunch of teenage boys, and it's a recipe for disaster. Anyone who has worked with kids can see why this is problematic and would lead to bullying. BP, most of the other boys aren't used to following a special diet, and they're probably not going to be happy if we can't make things like breakfast burritos and s'mores, and they're going to blame that on K. Like I said, I'm happy to help K, but we can't design a menu with only him in mind. Well, they better learn to be more tolerant. I'm telling you what will happen on this trip, and this is final. EP, this is really. Don't argue with me. Either you accommodate K or the camping trip is not happening. This conversation is over. So, long story short, the campout ended up happening. My brother and the other scouts planned a gluten-free spaghetti bolognese dinner, and they told EP that K was welcome, but under no circumstances would they provide a special menu, and K would need to pack his own meals. Of course, this sent EP into orbit, but there wasn't much that could be argued with at that point. I wish this story had a more satisfying ending, but Kay continued with the troop, in all honesty, a really good thing, because Kay wasn't at all a bad kid, and EP continued to harass my brother about minutia. I'm sure the kid wouldn't feel left out either way, and having everyone eat gluten-free would make the kids dislike him if they ever found out why they couldn't eat the food they were supposed to eat. A few years ago I worked as a branch manager at a mid-size regional retail bank. It was a small branch, so it was just me, a personal banker or assistant manager, and 2 or 4 tellers. We had a college pretty close. It wasn't a D1 school or anything, but they had a football team, D3, which was popular locally and competitive in their division. It was big enough that every year we opened some new accounts for incoming students. One day entitled Mommy M, proud entitled Dad PED, and their new arrival freshman son FS, doesn't really speak, walk into the branch and directly into my office. My branch probably looked like the headquarters of the bank, but it was just a regular bank in a big old school bank building that was rented. I stood up and greeted them. When I did, I looked into the lobby to see if it was suddenly super busy, and I didn't notice. The lobby was empty. They blew straight past the tellers and banker, whose office is customer facing and inviting, straight to mine. I met eyes with the head teller and she just shrugged. She later told me that everyone tried to greet them, but they weren't having it. We need to open a new account for our son. Great, our personal banker opens all of our new accounts and will help you set up everything you need while FS is here, 3 hours from them, at school. Let me introduce you. I always let her open new accounts so she could make her bonus. They ignore me and take a seat. FS is here to play football, insert 10 minutes of talk about football, and his role is the new freshman kicker at D3U. I politely engaged in the conversation. You're the branch manager, we'd prefer that you open the accounts. Sure, no problem. They seem to be a nice family, but definitely helicopter parents and a little entitled, but not story-worthy. We talked a little football, good places to eat, and some general info about the area. I go over a checking account with the kid, and there isn't much to it. A simple student checking account with a debit card and online banking access. Things turn. He will need a debit card right away. He has $700 cash to start the account. We don't want him walking around with that money. Can we get one today? I'm sorry, but we don't print new cards at the branch, but we do have a few expedited delivery options that can help. But he needs a card now. We are also in a hurry. There are a lot of new student things we need to attend today. Maybe PED should stop talking about football if you have somewhere to be. The fastest way I can get a card here is to have it expedited to the branch in 2 days. There is a fee of $25, but I'll waive it. I can also have the card delivered to our branch closest to campus, so FS can walk over and grab it, 5-minute walk. We can deposit most of his money into the account now, and he can keep some cash on him for incidental expenses until the card arrives. He can activate the card at the branch ATM, it's super easy. I felt like this was pretty above and beyond the call of duty to offer a good solution. He's here to play football, he can't be worrying about this. The entire time I'm of course wondering why they didn't set the account up at their home branch so he could have his debit card when he arrived. However, even with their massive failure in planning, I feel like I deliver the best possible customer service. They get visibly upset. The dad starts to get heated, mumbling under his breath that my bank screws. I need a card here first thing tomorrow. I keep my composure. I reiterate as nicely as I can that isn't possible. There has to be a way. I had a bank do it before. He practically has a vein popping on his forehead. I wanted to say, dude, I don't know where the hell the bank even makes this crap. I can't drive to the debit card plant and pick one up, and I'm not a genie. It's going to be 2 days, but I gave the standard canned response when someone is asking for the impossible. I wanted them the hell out of my branch at this point. I offered to go meet their freaking kid at a time of their choosing with his debit card. I actually meet him with the card at an ATM by his dorm, where I show him how to activate it and use it. Nice kid. I hear from his mom at least 3 more times asking questions about the account, and because she screwed up the simple task of setting up online banking. She emails me about it several times as well. I had more contact helping her with this account than any other student account in history. She gets a survey online at random. Surveys were important to me. Anything less than 5 out of 5 might as well be a 0 in the eyes of many at the bank whose only job was looking at surveys. Part of my bonus was tied to the score, and at a perfect 5.0 I lead the region. 1 out of 5. A freaking 1. And a lengthy complaint about debit cards, online banking, and the branch manager's unwillingness to help. It killed my perfect average with surveys which no one else had out of 15 branches for the quarter, and I had to write a freaking action plan about it, because if you got a 1 it was discussed with some lame coach type person. I know there wasn't much payoff to this story, but that one still bothers me. She just had to deal with the manager. Edit. I didn't follow that local team because I wasn't from the area and commuted 45 min to work, so I really didn't know much other than they existed, and locals liked them. Apparently they are pretty good for the size of the school. They've made the NCAA D3 tournament a bunch of times over the years, and their coach had a ton of wins. Banks don't make the debit cards, a processing company does. That company may or may not be anywhere near the bank or the customer. Those parents make themselves so stupid really. Backstory for context. I had just left the hospital about a week or so ago due to really bad pain behind my knee. So bad that I couldn't sit, stand fully upright, walk, lay down, nor bend or fully straighten my leg. It came out of nowhere and got progressively worse every day that I ended up bedridden for 2 weeks. Also, to note that even though the summer heat is coming to an end where I live, I drank plenty of cold water to the point where I'd have to get up every hour to use the bathroom throughout the day. The pain was so bad that I would lose the urge and would just lay in bed all day, not even wanting to get up to eat or pee, because it was so bad and sensitive to the touch that any movement would make me wince. Doctors were baffled, so there was a CT scan and an MRI done, as well as bringing in an oncologist, because I had a large mass of fat behind my leg, a tumor about the size of a football. Hearing oncologist almost brought me to tears as I feared for the worst. It turns out what I thought was a really bad cramp was actually torn tendons and ligaments in my leg. I hadn't fallen or hit my leg against anything, which is what confused everyone, and the large mass was just a fatty tumor, nothing too serious according to the doctors and surgeon. No operation was done, it's not cancerous, and I was told in a few weeks the swelling would go down and my leg should heal naturally. I've been using a walker since discharge, and just recently the pain is much more tolerable that I no longer need it, but still use a walking cane because there's still a chance I could fall, and I won't risk it for a biscuit. Now that that's out of the way, on to the story. I've been given hydrocodone upon discharge for the pain, but only for 3 days as it's pretty strong and one could possibly get addicted. So I've been taking Tylenol after my meds ran out, as it's the strongest OTC medicine I could get. I have to keep my leg either very still while laying down or constantly moving it, walking, as it hurts if I stand still for too long. This incident happened 2 days ago. Instead of sitting at home doing leg exercises in bed and waiting for my dad to go bring me pain meds, I decided to go with him to keep myself moving, hoping it would help me, plus spend more quality time with him. We've had an on and off bumpy relationship. So we head to the pharmacy, and once we're there, I decided I also wanted some jacket snacks. I inform my dad about this, and so he doesn't have to slowly follow me around, I suggest he go out to get some quick groceries at the supermarket across the street. He agrees and we go about our separate ways for a while. I go around with a basket and pick my stuff up along with pain meds, taking my time, then head to the counter up front. This is where the entitled dad and his son come into play. The son was quiet the entire time, didn't say a word. As I'm standing in line, I put my basket down next to me and hold onto my cane. As mentioned before, it hurts to stay standing still for too long, and my hands start to wobble a bit as I'm struggling. Ed is behind me in line and makes a snide remark about me struggling to stand, saying how I should quit being a drama queen. You can wait. I turn to him and glare for a few seconds before replying, I have a bad leg, I can't stand for too long, in a deep, irritated tone before turning away. As I do, this man has the absolute nerve to walk over and picks up my basket and starts rummaging through my items. I turn and demand loudly, put down my basket now, to ensure I grab other people's attention. He scoffs and hands it to his son, who's about maybe 6 years old and carrying their own basket, and keeps rummaging, picking out and commenting on my snacks, and gets to my pain meds. What are you, some sort of addict? What's with all the painkillers? You're getting off on these, aren't you? There's only 3 other people in line who are either staring or trying not to get involved. I ignore his question and ask for my basket back. This angers Ed, and he asks again in a much louder voice. "You're getting off on these, aren't you?" As he throws the stuff back into the basket. I'm almost up to the counter next, but I walk a bit closer as my leg was now starting to feel a bit stiff and ask once again for my basket. Ed shouts fine. And as I hold my hand out to grab it, he, instead of handing it to me, throws it forward towards me. I'm only 5'7", and this man was about 6 foot something, pretty tall guy, and threw it at chest height, as if tossing a basketball. So basically he tossed it at my head. I put my hands up not to catch it, but to block it from hitting me in the face. As soon as it hit me, I was knocked backwards, stumbling with my leg in pain from the sudden movement as I tried to catch my balance or grab onto something, anything, so I wouldn't hit the floor. If I had fallen against the counter, it would have been much better as I'd still be standing, but I fell straight on my butt and onto my back. The rope around my wrist from my cane, coupled with the momentum, made the cane spin back, and I landed on it with my right arm. I can't tell you how much I screamed and cried in agony as I fell and lay there trying to move my body to my right side. I can't even sit down normally without pain and have to lean most of my body to the right whenever I sit down on the toilet seat, at the dinner table, or even sitting upright on my soft mattress. Any weight or pressure on my leg makes it hurt, and it's uncomfortable and gives me backaches, so landing hard straight down was absolute hell. The other customers, as well as the cashier and store manager, started shouting at the guy while trying to help me up. I declined, wanting to stay on the floor as it'd be much better than if I was sitting or standing, and demanded loudly for the cops to be called and to not let the man go, as I was sure as crap going to be pressing charges. Ed doubles down and shouts back at everyone else. I mean, look at him. He's exaggerating, he's not hurt. Look at all these pain meds. Walks to my basket and takes out my stuff he's buying. He's probably getting high off of these. How in the hell? No one person needs this many Tylenol, he's an addict. He doesn't even need this. He proceeds to kick my cane away, but the strap is still around my wrist. It's all fake, it's an act. As he's finishing his stupid speech, his voice is starting to shake as I'm guessing he's realized he's not gonna win this one. He goes and grabs his son's hand, puts his basket down and tries to speed walk out of the store, muttering something along the lines of, "Come on son's name, we don't need this, we'll go to another store." But one customer blocks his path, as well as the manager who's already on the phone with the dispatcher and saying officers are on their way. Upon hearing this, Ed bolts, dragging his kid along, and shoves the customer blocking his path into the metal detector near the entrance. Ed stumbles as a woman with her child in a stroller start to walk in. Ed is dancing left to right, trying to get past the woman who's now just standing there confused as to what's happening. The shoved customer gets back on his feet, runs up to Ed, spins him around 180, and tackles him to the floor, keeping him pinned. Fast forward to my dad coming back and asking what the hell happened. I explained, as well as the other customers and manager. Police arrive after a while, and everyone starts to explain what happened. A statement was given, charges were pressed, and the ED was taken in cuffs to the backseat of a squad car. His son stayed behind and would be picked up by his aunt. The only thing he said was, "I'm sorry," before we left. "I hope they called an ambulance for you. Good you pressed charges. I think you should also sue him for the pain and suffering." Well, at least his son apologized for his dad's behavior, so now I feel bad for that kid. I walk into the theater with my boyfriend, and immediately I can hear this kid being as loud as physically possible. Okay, whatever, as long as she isn't making noise during the movie, I don't give a crap. Movie starts, all is fine for about 2 minutes, until this kid is talking. Loudly. Everybody ignored it for a while, deciding to just try and focus on the movie, and it worked, for a little bit at least. I look over, about an hour into the movie, and this goddamn kid scared the crap out of me. She's standing there, right beside me, waving her finger in my face and making noise. What the hell? Who lets their kid wander around in a theater? Kid's parents refused to get her, but I eventually was left alone again, as the dad begrudgingly got up and yelled at her to come back. Once again, this kid is being as loud as can be. Finally, someone has enough. You can hear a royally pissed off guy sitting somewhere behind us shout, "Seriously? The whole freaking movie? Get that kid out of here." They didn't leave, refused to actually. But I guess they realized that nobody in that theater was on their side, and they made their daughter shut the hell up. I know I should have said something, But I didn't want to be that idiot who disturbs a movie, especially considering I wanted to watch it. Funnily enough, I saw them out in the parking lot afterwards, and they were talking on the phone and completely ignoring the kid. Honestly feel bad for her, having to be raised by such airhead parents. Honestly, next time get a manager, they will kick them out. They really screws. Yes, you might miss a few minutes, but it's more worth it. Some theaters might actually refund your ticket. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing, and if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story is about a woman with children who assaults a family cause they stole women's seats. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.